WeAfric is on a mission to make real change by facilitating solutions for our everyday lives. We'll be joined by professionals and influential individuals to share with you their journey and recipe for success. We ask about their methods and experience. Is it their career, their education, or is it their background? This is our secret sauce to enlighten, uplift, and empower the community where we are all special. Welcome to WeAfric Talk, where our support is our actions. If they don't believe you, tell them to subscribe to this channel.
Welcome, my beautiful people. I'm super excited to have you here and the conversation we'll get to have today. We have an amazing leader and a pioneer who will be sharing their story with us. She's passionate and generous and kind-natured and giving back to the community, empowering people to take control of their life and their lifestyle. Please welcome our special guest, Christina Belloge. For those who don't know Christina, I'll tell you a little bit about her. She's the founder of Melanin Travels Magic, a digital marketing consultant, a serial traveler that challenges the norm, an expert that speaks 3 languages, maybe more, actually. Four, you see? Got that wrong already. She's been featured in Travel Noir, Alt Africa, Expat Chat, and many more. So I'd like to express my gratitude and thanks. I'm very excited to have you here today. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thanks for giving me the opportunity to discuss. I'm Christina, I'm French and British. I was born in Paris, but my parents are French from Guadeloupe Island. For those who wonder where it is, it's in between Dominica and Saint Martin. I speak 4 languages. I've learned a lot being an expat, so I live in France, Guadeloupe, UK, Germany, and Netherlands. Because when I was a kid, I was dreaming of learning language and traveling. Some of my aunties, they were good in languages. They're the one who bought me my first English dictionary, for example, or when I was lost because my mom got me young and sometimes she didn't want me to go, etc. So I used to go and get advice at my aunties a lot because I had 5 of them. When I was a kid, I was partly raised by my grandmother in Guadeloupe as well. So I've always been very outgoing. I had lots of nannies as a consequence, uncles and aunties, because on her side, I think they're 11. On my dad's side, they're 8. So,
Wow.
yes, so I have...
You guys have a football team here.
Yes, football team on both sides. And lots of cousins as well. So when we have a ridiculous joke, we say minimum 200 people.
Thank you so much for giving us an insight into your childhood. So how did your career start?
I first started in a startup and then I went major media and I pivoted in social media marketing and had access to bigger companies. When you're in a startup, you learn everything, I have to say. I was traveling a lot between Germany, US, and going to trade shows as well, massive one, like doing Fort One, which is the biggest in publishing. And I went to Seattle, I went to New York. And I remember I used to arrange the diary. And I didn't know that when you're in New York, you walk a lot because it was my first time in the US. I was, I think, late by 20 minutes because I forgot. When I say 2 blocks, it's like 20-minute walk. I had to do this there for 2 years and travel a lot, approach, learn to cold call, to meeting, to signing agreement, to manage relationship. So I grew massively. I've worked in a variety of companies from big media agencies to client side. I started client fashion, e-commerce, luxury fashion, but I've worked as well as in tech as FMCG. So now I can choose my project, which I love because I've been freelancing since 6.
It seems like you've had quite a multitude of experiences in terms of the work field, from tech to social, to small, to medium businesses, to large corporations. In that profession where you've had so many different roles, what is the greatest asset to have?
So you have to be flexible. Each assignment is different. Usually the basic skill set like analytics, technical, running ads, media planning, strategy. Sometimes you manage a team on top. Sometimes you pitch to clients. Sometimes you have to propose new ideas. And the biggest thing in marketing, especially social media, there's always something coming. So you have also to keep up to date with what's the new trend, the latest network. Because when I started, it was only Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, I think. Instagram was not available or advertising yet. So just to say that the landscape is always evolving, and that's what kept me going. You have to love to try new things. Depending on the client, you need to adapt to their challenge. There's not one solution fits all. So every client's got different set of challenges because they do things either differently, they don't have the same budget, or they don't do the same countries, geographies. That's why I love it. It's because it keeps on challenging you. You change industry, so you need to start to have to think differently and solve a challenge. So it's like being a puzzle solver because you have a mixture in between sometimes being creative because you have to design everything from scratch. Sometimes you have to do strategy, media plan, execution, reporting, but sometimes you have higher layers like going into the finance, which everybody hates, launching innovative things. Like last year, I've worked on TikTok sponsorship of the European Football Cup. It was the first time I did a campaign for 6 countries for a sports tournament. And it's a big thing to do because basically TikTok challenge is most of the audience is female. So they start to sponsor male sports to attract those demographics.
There's so much to take away from that. It's almost, yeah, being almost like a chameleon.
Yeah, it's like being a chameleon because you need to understand your clients and you say challenges, you need to find solution, but you need to strategize the way you're gonna address them.
I think it shows your versatility.
Yes.
And your experience and your drive for success. And
That's so good.
it's all in there, but you're just taking irrelevant parts and applying it to the actual situation that you're faced with. How important is networking to your success?
Where I've learned to network was to launch and make Melanin Travels Magic be known. So I started Melanin in September 2020, thinking pandemic would just be 1 month. Everyone was like, you need to set up a business, you need to create generational wealth. And I was questioning myself, what can I do to give back to the community from my experience, from what I love, from all the questions I have? Because the last 6 years, I traveled 21 countries thanks to freelancing. So the last year, I've decided to work 10 months of 12, for example. And I dedicate 1 month of traveling and then 1 month of personal development training. My mindset has changed because every year I will allocate a budget to learn new things, whether it's food, finance, learning how to run group trip, or now I'm trying to nutrition as well. Every year I'm trying to focus on 2, 3 things I've never done and just grow myself. And I was like, okay, maybe I should tap into my travel experience because I've done a lot of solo trip, but I've done a few group trip because it's cheaper to go as a group or you're not sure as a solo woman of your safety. You have all those things to consider because some countries are not, I'm not supposed to drift around. Part of my questioning was to favor Black nation. My first country I started was Cuba because I'm Caribbean. I've always dreamed to go there. I was welcomed so well because in any of the Caribbean island, people know and I speak Spanish. So they give me more food, more drinks. They took time to explain me their life story. I met some former war veterans from liberating Mozambique and used to be pilots, a freedom fighter during Mozambique independence. So what? I didn't know Cuba helped other African countries to liberate themselves because history, the way we are being taught, is cut out depending on whoever point of view.
Yeah.
And that's why I realized doing those trips lift your spirit, makes you understand your history, your roots, and also what we have in common. And I've realized when I came back, everything I said to all my family and friends, they've lied to us. And they would look at me like, what do you mean? I said, they lie to us in media. They just show us negativity, poverty, anger. And it's not what I've seen. It's not what I've seen at all. And I've seen proud people who work hard. I haven't seen what I used to see growing on TV in France. I've done 4 or 5 countries and it's the same everywhere. So what I'm trying to do is incentivize or create this impulse for the Black diaspora, whether Afro-American, Afro-European, we say UK, wherever they're based, to travel through Latin America, Caribbean, Africa, to get to each other countries and change your tourism spirit in the sense specialize in Black heritage. So it means there will always be an element of culture and history. And then there's leisure on the side or sporty activity. But it's for you to realize when you go to a Black nation, not only you support the economy, but you also learn about the history, elevate yourself because that's what I've done. I just come back from Jamaica. You elevate yourself because you're amongst your people. Goodbye stress from the Western world and enjoy yourself. And it's not just the sunshine, the food, the music. Yes, for example, I went for evening. I went cruising. I was in nature all the time. I felt at peace. Felt all the stress was gone. All the stress was gone. Live in the moment is the most important thing. Learn about a new culture.
Your experience and adventure, you've always wanted to challenge the norm, not listening to what the majority is saying. You want to go there and actually have that experience of living with the locals, asking the real questions. How's life there? Literally being like them and living that kind of experience, because only through experience do you really have gratitude and belief and change of attitude, and then your mindset also almost having validation in terms of, okay, look, I thought it was not like this. Now I've actually validated it that it's not like this. So what are some of the challenges you face with setting up Melanin?
We had some challenges. Remember, it was the pandemic. We had the longest lockdown ever, 7 months. We had the travel ban. There was red list countries. So my first trip was supposed to Brazil, and I had to cancel twice. No one wanted to travel. The only people who've been traveling all year 2021 were American, and it was hard to capture them. A lot of them thought that because this certainty was starting, things would not happen. So you have also this challenge of having much less country open to unvaccinated, unfortunately. But a lot of people could not project themselves until December. Everyone was living by the day. I think that was the biggest challenge was lockdowns, the travel ban, the bed listing, because the list was changing every 3 weeks. Even if from your side you think things are stable, your country is open, the other side might close like that. So when it's like that, it's best to, what I did is you book a flexible ticket, flight ticket, so that you can move the date as much as you want. And then you book accommodation, free cancellation, cancel. And then once you're there, you will organize your activities. That's the safest way to do it.
Yeah.
Or book through us, but closer to departure date, like maybe 1 month or 3 months before.
Okay. That makes perfect sense. I completely understand the challenges there. When do you have this unpredictability of not knowing how each country is going to really operate?
Yes.
You're almost faced with a blind spot at each time, and that kind of adds to the additional work that you really need to get through, the red tape. So what advice would you give to someone thinking of starting a similar project or organizing?
If I was honest, I would say start outside of pandemic, definitely network, do research in terms of find out about the market, the viability. But if you can, once, because right now it's been a proof of concept, it's been working, it's not profitable yet, but I'm like, I know it's going to boom. I need to be ready for it. And for example, some of the key elements, don't do everything yourself. So find freelancer, websites, accountants, graphic designers. So outsource what you can't do to be more efficient. Score the market, test some concept, test a lot, especially marketing, until you see what works for you. Because at the beginning, I was everywhere, zooming, networking, and in fact, I realized entrepreneurship is all about you experience on the ground. It's not about doing this certification, this webinar, because what works for someone will work for you, because it depends on your market, the dynamic, how people respond to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, quit on spending hours trying to learn everything. I've been in an accelerator as well because basically first thing you have is imposter syndrome because you're not used. Yeah, it's true. I'm not used to be in that position. People start to address you, they come to you, they all want to partner. So you need to have a clear mind or vision of where you want to go, what you want to achieve. Not say, learn to say no. Best advice, learn to say no. Because a lot of people send you spam. It's true. And they're like, yeah, I want to partner to do this. And then it drags you or distracts you from your objective. Because I remember there was this ex-banker who's come with lots of finances because he worked in tourism, and he's like, oh, because he's working with Airbnbs and stuff. And he was like, yeah, you could work with a real estate agent and make money. And I'm like, no, this is not the principle of this company. I don't want shortcut. I just want to start to see if this thing is picking and putting my effort developing it because it's a baby, it's an extension, but I don't want to start to partner there or do this travel guide, do this cultural guide because you're distracted. You're only one person, and plus I was still working full time. So there's only one of me, or else I burn out every day. So be very clear about your mission, what you're trying to achieve, who you talk to. Learn to say no because you're gonna have a lot of distraction, partnership offers on the way. They're not always valid. They're not always to your advantage. Because I had one, for example, I got my note exam, then the contract was screwed. So she told me, stay away from that. Don't hesitate to hire your lawyer to verify things. Don't jump on it. Oh, it looks like good. No, you need to protect yourself and have clarity, intention.
You've hit a lot of really crucial steps here. I think one of the big ones is that egotistic kind of mindset of not understanding when to say no, as you said, and also realizing that, okay, if you have got a small team, dedicate kind of,
Delegate what you can with.
delegate.
So, virtual assistant, freelancer, delegate. You can't do everything yourself. You're going to burn.
Exactly. And then the other crucial element that you mentioned was obviously, overstretching and being distracted from the main course because your vision is in one direction, but then if you're getting distracted in the other direction, you can lose focus. So you really need to stay on course and obviously just readdress and check your project timeline if you've set one up, or get someone who's qualified, as you said, that up and just make sure that everything is still on track, and reassess and kind of just reapproach everything on a month-to-month basis and just see where you're actually heading. So what difference do you hope to make to African people in the diaspora, the Caribbean, Africa, through the work you're doing?
Is to change your tourism mindset to prioritize the Black nation to help them grow, but also help you grow, because by also venturing in other Black nations, you showcase what we have in common. If you go to the place, you will learn history and you will understand the impact your four ancestors had the rest of the countries of Ireland. I know that their four ancestors liberated my ancestor. So therefore I need to be grateful to them, because they were the first to do it. So I can't criticize them anyhow because I'm enlightened enough to know my history, know their history, know the impact they had. Like Cuba was strong enough to send doctors, fighters, the pilots to help African independence. I have to respect because they came a long way to do that. So they're not the enemy that everybody's propaganda said they are. They actually decided to help us to set ourselves free, to be independent long before others. So what I'm trying to do is to, and I say that, wake up the masses. Not wake up the masses, but yesterday, for example, I saw a friend come from Réunion Island and explain me the background of the island. He told me we all mix, and the French culture kind of wiped out our differences. Officially, we don't have any racism or colorism. Therefore, we all consider equal, but no one knows their history. Oh, I'm so happy you're the first person I can speak with about this. So it was like, I have all those questioning. I watch those documentaries. I travel in those places, but something is missing. Where's my community? And I said, but you don't have your community back home. He said, no, we don't. We haven't been raised in that way. Therefore, this concept is foreign for us. And I was like, wow, that's deep. That's deep. So it's to say your self-image, your self-esteem depends on your environment, depends on your upbringing, depends on your education. But you need to go further than this. Research, read, see documentaries, travel, meet people to understand who you really are.
But I think crucially, what you're really summarizing is that to really understand who you are,
Yes,
and
understand who you
live,
are.
you have to live that experience through that time at that time. So whether it being you travel to that country, sit with the local grandmother or grandfather, and just really just be curious about what they're talking about, or just
Yes.
listen in, and then ask the appropriate question that you may want answers to. And obviously, as you speak more and you have more shared experiences, then your understanding will grow massively, because then
Yes.
you can actually mirror it against what your upbringing was.
Yes.
It's their upbringing, and then you'd be like, okay, during this time in the 60s, it was completely different. They probably had it harder, and then we are here in the 2000s. We're still complaining, but we have it so much easier, because we have the appreciation of knowing that, okay, look, sometimes we overanalyze situations without being in the situation. So I think that's one of the crucial bits that you've actually just kind of touched. And obviously knowing that the touch points for each person is completely different depending on where they are. And then obviously connecting with people who are trying to express this and show this and basically kind of validate what their kind of understanding was is really, really beautiful. So what is the long-term vision of Melanin Travels Magic?
It's to curating travel experience where you always have a Black heritage part. So, for example, whether it's through visiting symbolical, historical sites as part of the itinerary, and also discovering the culture, doing local activities. So, for example, when we start with Ghana, everyone know Cape Coast and Mina Castle because they were slave dungeons. So it's always like a step where everybody goes. But for example, when I first went to Senegal, I went to Gorée Island, which is the equivalent, but Gorée Island, because it's French, it's very beautiful, it's colorful. You would never imagine slavery happened there because the way it's decorated, they kind of tone down the history of the museum. While when you go in Ghana, it's rough, it's white, it's perfect, and they make you enter the dungeon. So when my group were watching, they turn off the light for 3 minutes, live like your ancestors. No documentary can give you that. It's just like you're in the dark and you have to think that you're 300, you're 100. They used to be 3,000 in space. So they tell you the story, and because you're in there at this moment, you start to understand everything that happened. You live it more or less. You come back transformed because there's also part of it going to Asima River. They call it the first path, but in fact, it was the last path. People used to pass there, then they're trapped in to until the next ship comes. So just doing those two things to closer to your ancestor, whether you keep too much of a whatever, you will see goodness of Connect. Like it's best to also mix it with cultural and historical experience to also go to Kumasi and see all the royal heritage of the city, and you realize, oh, my ancestors were kings and queens. They rule kingdoms, they have massive resources. Or for example, if you go to first university long before Greece. So my vision is to be part of the Black excellence without being an entertainer, right? Or sports lady. No, but it's true because media always present you a certain image of Black success while we're very successful and we had an history before our story was interrupted.
The lived experience at that time, going through it at this time, gives you a great appreciation of that time. It's a bit confusing what
Yes,
I said. Yes,
I know. You start to realize you are lucky. You
Yeah.
are lucky. So do something good about it.
We are here because we are all special and unique,
Yes.
and we are destined to do something great. It's just whether you manifest that
Yes, a lot of
based on
people.
your mindset.
So that's why you have to instill in the sense of effort, discipline, and regularity, consistency, would say, because you develop habits and you're just not drifting.
Yeah.
If you drift, you're aimless. If you're aimless, you will fail.
Yeah. Yeah. I think crucially, yes, completely agree with all of those points. And the byproduct of that is your time management becomes much better. And if you can manage time, you have plenty of it. So if you had a superpower, what would it be and why?
So I will play the Miss Universe. So I'm like, peace on earth, please. This is the 21st century. We have lived long enough. Our history should have taught us not to go back to those pitfalls and destroy each other, because we have enough technology and we have enough advance not to go back to that. COVID should have brought back solidarity and human values, because we realized that living apart is not natural for the well-being. Yeah, destruction is not good for us. If I had the superpower, I would say peace on earth every day, all the time, because that's the best we can offer to us, to our future children, our grandchildren, peace, and be conscious of the environment. Because when I was in Jamaica, I saw global warming differently. Basically, in the Caribbean, global warming is either going to destroy some island, they're going to be submerged, like in the Maldives, or they're going to be drier because they already see less rainfall. But if there was peace on earth, there's greediness, therefore the climate will not suffer.
I definitely think yes. The peace, no war, love,
Yeah.
the concept of sharing,
Yeah, and
not
sharing.
harm anyone. You know, I
Yes.
think it's
so rare like that.
it's really is something that nowadays, I think, you know, like how when you grow up, sometimes the why is beaten out of you. I think the concept of sharing and actually really appreciating one another is actually beaten out of us. And
Yes.
so that,
Especially, let's say in some societies,
yes, in some areas,
we come from communities where we share everything, our food, our bed, our house. So it's weird when you come in some places and it's totally contrary.
it shows the uniqueness of our ability to adapt to any environment and maneuver.
Yes,
So
exactly.
I think,
How to thrive.
what do you think of the WeAfric project?
We need to have our own platform not to be censored and tell our own stories. Because if we had this when I was growing up, you were growing up, we would have already been inspired and knew from a young age, I know I can do.
Definitely agree. We're all unique. We all have the same assets that everyone else has who's successful, but we do not necessarily have to only listen to, as you said,
Yes,
that we have to be this person who's in a spotlight. Because look, there's so many other beautifully successful people who are not in the spotlight, you know?
Yes, because the thing is, the media never showcase the very successful one who work hard or develop business or are artists or do things out of the norm.
Yes.
Out of the beaten path. They always showcase the same style of personalities to make you believe that this is the only option you have.
Because what they're showing is very unattainable for the majority.
Voilà.
So it's just a case of, look, we need to really drum down and say, look, okay, for example, you could just say, okay, in my street where I live, how many people here are of similar background? It doesn't even have to be just necessarily similar background, but who's willing to really give back and show people, look, my success was made up of these elements. I did this, I did that, I did this. So this is basically mentorship on its grand scale.
I've mentored a few people. I've put 5 or 6 people in freelancing. I've always mentored people. Even now, I think consideration. Should I go back to Guadeloupe? Because we're having a more than identity crisis, a societal crisis because of. And what I see is we need to redefine our economies. We need to reinvent ourselves, and we need a long-term vision for that.
Yeah. when you talk about reinventing and the economy, there's Dr. Claude Anderson, an American former politician. He's run for different presidents in the States, but he's been talking about really understanding our value and how to amass wealth over time through critical thinking and different approaches, just knowing, okay, how can you really leverage your mass community in terms of building structures and foundations?
That's what we miss. We miss unity, first of all. One of the first challenge we have as the Black community is unity, because we have different story, whether from oppression, colonization, slavery, which divided us. Time to unite, to build, and that's our device.
Yeah.
We have me.
Thank you for watching the latest episode of WeAfric Talk. We hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. Be part of the WeAfric family, subscribe and share. And remember, we're here to shake things up, reverse the flow, and be great. I am because we are.